"This can't be happening," Helen screamed silently in her head, recalling how, in recent weeks, she had been noticing more and more disturbing signs. Mia was locking herself in the bathroom far too often, and from behind the closed door came sounds that couldn't be mistaken for anything else. Helen was afraid to confront her daughter directly, afraid to hear something she couldn't even bring herself to imagine. But pretending nothing was happening was no longer an option either. Her heart was torn by anxious thoughts. It all felt like a nightmare she desperately wanted to wake up from. "God, Victor," she whispered with pain in her voice, sharing her worries over a cup of tea with her closest friend, Laura. "I really thought he was a good man. Kind, caring, decent. After all the hell I went through with my first husband, I truly believed I'd finally gotten lucky. And now, him? Could he really have seduced my Mia behind my back? And she, my poor baby, she was just too scared to tell me." Helen had no idea what to do. Install hidden cameras all over the house? That would be going too far. But ignoring the signs was no longer possible. Her first husband really had been a nightmare. There was no other word to describe him but a monster. His behavior had grown more despicable with each passing year. She had been thinking about divorce for a long time. When did he become such a beast? She often pondered aloud while sitting in the kitchen with Laura. Laura sympathized deeply, though she didn't know what to suggest. She had never been married herself, nor had she ever wanted to be. "They're all the same," Laura sighed philosophically. "Of course you should divorce, but think, you've got a daughter. She's almost grown. Maybe hold on just a little longer. You can't live without a man, and if you bring a stranger into the house, it could be even worse. At least this one's her biological father." "Sure," he yells, "you argue. But it hasn't come to hitting, right? Maybe it'll settle down over time." But a little longer, in Laura's terms, meant 5 whole years. For Helen, it felt like a lifetime. Especially considering that Nick didn't even work. He was completely living off her, justifying it by saying he was helping raise the child. "Just look at what she's turning into," Nick had shouted one evening, about half an hour before Helen got home from work. "All dolled up, bright lipstick, dressed like... What the hell was she thinking going out like that?" He threw tantrums as if he actually cared, but in reality, he didn't give a damn, neither about Mia nor about Helen. He just played the role of family man while his wife worked herself to exhaustion at 2 jobs. Mia couldn't stand her stepfather. Every evening she cried into her mother's shoulder. "Mom, he humiliates me," she sobbed. Helen knew she couldn't take it any longer. Patience has its limits. She couldn't keep living with this lazy, rude man who poisoned the lives of both her and her daughter. "If you leave, Mia will go wild," Nick yelled when she finally brought up divorce seriously. "You won't be able to control her. You've got work on your mind all the time. You don't even care about your own kid. What's going to happen to her without me?" "I'll figure it out without you," Helen snapped, barely holding herself back from slapping him across the face. He had pushed her too far. She was done, completely done. She only wanted one thing, for him to disappear from their lives. And that wish came true. After the divorce, Nick vanished like smoke. No calls, no messages. He didn't ask about Mia, didn't care about her life at all, which only confirmed the awful but obvious truth. He had never cared. Not about anyone. He didn't ask about Mia even once. As for child support, Helen never even expected it, though Laura tried to convince her, even a bad sheep gives some wool. Take him to court. "Let him go to hell," Helen waved her off. "He can live however he wants as long as he stays away from us. Mia and I have suffered enough. I'll never let him near her again. Never." She didn't want courts, no more legal drama. She was done with all of that, and Helen found a replacement for Nick quickly, just as Laura had predicted. You won't stay single long, girl. Especially when he appeared. Victor. Polite, well-mannered, respectable, and, as it turned out, quite wealthy. How could she resist? They met by accident. That day, Helen's car broke down. She had to wait on the side of the road for assistance. Cars zoomed by, nearly hitting her, when suddenly one stopped. "You should at least put out a warning sign," the driver said with a smirk. "Someone's gonna run you over out here. Let me help." It was Victor. That same evening, they were sitting in a cozy restaurant, talking like they'd known each other forever. He was over 40 and had never been married. "Just hadn't met the right one yet," he joked, and now maybe he had. Helen never expected she could fall in love again, and Victor couldn't forget that awkward, endearing woman he found standing helplessly by the roadside. She was real, so real it made him want to protect her, hold her close, and never let go. It didn't take long for him to realize Helen was the one, the woman he wanted to build a new life around. "Girl," Laura sighed when Helen announced she was getting married. "Aren't you rushing this? You barely got rid of the last one, and you're already diving into another man's arms. And what about Mia? How do they get along? You might have forgotten, but you have a daughter, and her opinion matters." But Mia had her own problems. Amid constant stress, the girl began rapidly gaining weight, and with the extra pounds came ridicule from her classmates. She had never been particularly popular, and now every day felt like torture. "She's gonna start rolling through the halls like a ball," kids laughed in the corridors. "Mia, better lose some weight. We'll have to widen the doors for you soon." Mia withdrew into herself, so deeply that even Helen didn't notice. Or maybe she just didn't want to notice. Too caught up in her whirlwind romance with Victor, she started to drift away, as if Mia were already the past, a closed chapter. Laura had been right. Soon the girl would grow up, leave the nest, start her own life, and Helen dreamed of something else entirely, of a new baby. She was still full of energy, and Victor had no children of his own. He dreamed of becoming a father, for the first time, and just when it all seemed perfect, the doubts began. Dark, icy suspicions crept in, ones she didn't dare say out loud. No, it can't be," Helen whispered, trembling. "Did I fall in love with another monster? Even worse than Nick?" She began searching through his things, looking for clues, checking laundry, swabbing samples onto cotton buds and sending them to the lab. Laura could only shake her head, trying to lighten the mood. "Helen, come on. Really? You think if he was doing something that awful, they'd be doing it right under your roof?" Helen said nothing, because the truth scared her more than the idea of being wrong. "Well then, where else would it be?" Helen exclaimed, barely keeping the tremble out of her voice. "It's not like he's taking her to a hotel. Victor works during the day, but sometimes he drops by the house. He owns his own business. His schedule's flexible. That's more than enough time to—" She trailed off, unable to finish the terrifying thought out loud. "You know exactly what I mean." While Helen struggled to untangle the knot of fear in her mind, something strange was happening with Mia. Every morning, the girl locked herself in the bathroom for 30 minutes, sometimes more. And afterwards, there was always that unmistakable smell lingering in the apartment, one no air freshener could mask. It wasn't just Helen who started noticing. Even Victor grew concerned. "What's wrong with her?" he asked, frowning. "Do you think she ate something bad?" His relationship with his stepdaughter was strained. There were no open arguments, but no trust either. He tried to talk to her, but Helen shut it down every time. She didn't understand what was going on, not with Mia, not even with herself. And the more Victor tried to show care, the stronger her suspicions grew. Eventually, Helen made up her mind. Mia had to get a medical checkup. "If she's pregnant, I'll find out anyway," she said, pain tightening her throat as she confided in Laura. "Oh God, it's terrifying. I don't want to know. But I can't not know anymore. What if it's true? What if he really... with her? She gasped sharply. That's a crime. Prison time. A scandal that stains your soul for life. How am I supposed to live with that? How? Helen buried her face in her hands. I wouldn't survive it. Guilt was eating her alive. Where had she gone wrong? When had everything started falling apart? At first, she blamed everyone else, and then she looked in the mirror. She'd gotten swept up in her new life, a new love, a new man. Victor had been asking her to move in with him for a while, but Helen refused. She was more comfortable in her own apartment, and Mia didn't want to leave her school or friends. Victor gave in. Still, it was clear he felt out of place living on her turf. He seemed so perfect, so kind, patient, understanding. But what if it was all just an act? The thought haunted her day and night. The illusion could shatter at any moment. In the days before the appointment, Helen cried into her pillow every night. She was terrified Victor might notice something. Suspect. Ask questions. Questions she didn't know how to answer. Even Mia didn't know why they were going to the doctor. To convince her, Helen had to come up with a dozen little tricks. Mom, why? Mia protested. We just had a school checkup. Everything's fine. But Helen knew she was lying. Something was wrong. Mia just didn't want to admit it. And Helen had no way to confirm her fears. She hadn't attended a parent-teacher meeting in ages, hadn't checked a school report in months, no complaints from teachers, and that was enough, she thought, to stay out of it. Now she cursed herself for that detachment. On the day, the one when everything would finally come to light, Helen woke with a heavy heart. She made Mia breakfast, waited for her to lock herself in the bathroom again for her usual 30 minutes. When the girl finally emerged, Helen reminded her, "Hurry up, we've got a doctor's appointment today, and I still have to get to work afterwards." Victor had already left. He had an important morning meeting. Thank God. Helen silently thanked the universe for that small mercy. One thing became crystal clear. Victor must never know. He couldn't find out what she suspected. How could she ever say it out loud? I think you're sleeping with my daughter. Absurd. Insane. But the thought wouldn't let her go. She clenched her fists, forcing herself not to cry in front of Mia. She kept pushing those thoughts away, but they kept coming back. Louder, darker, more terrifying than ever. Helen was finally convinced that all her suspicions had been in vain, but only after their visit to the doctor. The diagnosis turned out to be far more terrifying than a possible pregnancy. The moment the doctor said the word, her hair stood on end, and Mia burst into tears and ran out of the room. Helen rushed after her, caught up in the hallway, and wrapped her arms around her daughter, whispering through tears, "Oh God, baby, how did this happen?" She couldn't believe what she had just heard. Bulimia? She sobbed later to Laura, recounting the results of the examination. "What the hell kind of bulimia are we talking about? My sweet little Mia. The doctor said her body isn't even absorbing food. It gets expelled immediately, and the cause is psychological, severe emotional trauma. And it's my fault. I didn't notice. I let it slip through my fingers. How do I live with that? What's going to happen to my poor girl?" Helen couldn't sit still. Guilt burned inside her. She was ashamed of her suspicions, ashamed that she had almost accused Victor, the very man who turned out to be completely innocent. And yet she'd gone through his things like a spy, collecting samples like some kind of detective searching for proof of a crime. But the truth had nothing to do with Victor. Mia was genuinely sick, and what came next, no one could say for sure. "The doctor said she needs to be admitted immediately," Helen sobbed into Victor's shoulder. "But what if it doesn't help? What if my daughter... Oh God, I can't even say it out loud. This is a nightmare. Why do I keep getting hit with such cruel trials? What did I do to deserve all of this?" Victor held her tight, trying to comfort her as best he could. "We'll figure it out, Helen. Things will get better. Just don't panic. We need to understand what caused it. This doesn't come from nowhere. Someone, or something, made Mia feel this way. Someone pushed her over the edge. We'll find out who." "To hell with who said what," Helen snapped. "What difference does it make now? My daughter is sick. Her mind is damaged. If she doesn't get help, she might never recover. Psychiatry, clinics, medications, that's a label, a scar for life. How is she supposed to live like that? Who's ever going to accept her?" She was choking on her tears. "And you? What are you trying to do? You think she's suddenly going to open up to you? She never truly accepted you. You're nobody to her. Don't even try to reach her. It's pointless." "We'll see about that," Victor replied firmly. That very day, he sat beside Mia. He spoke calmly, without pressure. Not like a stepfather, but like a friend. Like someone she could, maybe, trust. And Mia broke down. "It's not my fault," she whispered through sobs. "They laugh at me all the time. I can't even walk through school without hearing it. It's like I'm the only fat girl there, like everyone else is a model, and I'm a cow. I barely eat anything, and I still keep gaining weight. How is that possible?" It turned out the weight gain was caused by a normal hormonal shift, completely typical for her age, but neither Mia nor her classmates knew that, and none of them cared to. It was easier to laugh, to mock, to bully. "Listen to me, Mia," Victor said gently. "Everything is going to be okay. Your mom and I will find you a good clinic. You'll get some treatment, rest, take care of your health and nerves. And those kids who hurt you? Ignore them. They're weak, mean people. They pick on others because they're scared of being different themselves. Believe me, the real world isn't like that." After Mia was admitted to the hospital, Victor began pushing for her to transfer schools. "She doesn't belong with that trash," he said harshly. "Look what they've done to her. If we'd waited any longer, the consequences could have been irreversible. A new school is the only way forward. Preferably a private academy. It's a whole different crowd. Polite, smart, raised with values. They don't judge by weight. They judge by mind, talent, heart." But Helen hesitated. "You're spoiling her," she said carefully. "Yes, part of me is glad she has you, but another part, she can't grow up thinking problems just go away if you run. Life doesn't always let you land on cushions." "And if she doesn't run now," Victor said coldly, "she might not survive at all. Do you understand?" On the one hand, Victor had proven he could be a real father, caring, patient, strong. But on the other, "Aren't you being a bit dramatic?" Helen asked thoughtfully. "You keep talking about transferring Mia to a school from our circle. I'm sorry, but what circle is that exactly? Don't stick your nose up too high. I don't consider myself a billionaire's wife, and you're not exactly an oil tycoon." She sighed and glanced out the window. "A private school is a big step. That's not something you decide on a whim. What if it's worse there? What if Mia can't keep up academically? Or worse, what if she faces new bullying? Money doesn't guarantee kindness. Kids can be cruel, even in tailored uniforms." "You're right," Victor agreed calmly. "But maybe we should ask Mia herself. Does she even want to go back to a place where she was humiliated every day?" The answer came quickly. The moment Mia returned from the hospital, she said firmly, "I'm not going back. Never. Let them all rot. Everyone there already knows my diagnosis. I can already imagine the new nicknames they'll come up with." "Don't worry," Victor smiled gently. "Your mom and I already made a decision. You'll go to a new school, and we'll catch up on everything with tutors." Mia couldn't believe what she was hearing. It was hard to imagine that the bullying was finally over. Everything that happened next felt like a miracle. The new school was a real salvation. The kids were different, calmer, kinder, more respectful. Most importantly, no one mocked her. For the first time in a long while, Mia made real friends. People she could laugh with until her stomach hurt, share secrets with, talk about dreams and the future. And her mom had changed too. She became warmer, more present, more caring. Mia no longer felt abandoned or alone. She started getting ready for school each morning with a smile. She was no longer afraid of the bell ringing or the looks from her classmates. Now, waiting behind the desk weren't humiliation and fear, but knowledge, support, and joy. Helen, too, began to bloom. She could finally breathe again. Her daughter was safe. Her daughter was smiling, dreaming, living. And as a mother, she no longer needed to be on guard 24/7, no longer had to brace herself with every phone call. Everything was good. And for the first time in a long while, that good felt real. Now, finally, she could think about herself. She and Victor had talked for a while about having a child together, but they kept postponing. The time was never right. Helen had even planned to visit a doctor for a checkup. But fate got there first. At a routine appointment, she received the unexpected news. She was already pregnant, as if the universe itself had decided to thank her. For every tear, every sleepless night, every trial. One by one, good things began to fill her life, like a shower of small but beautiful miracles. Everything that had come before, the pain, the fear, the grief, was now in the past. Ahead of her was only light, only hope, only happiness, and family, a real family, warm, alive, complete, the kind of family Helen had dreamed of all her life. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your support inspires us to create more heartfelt stories. May your life be filled with warmth, wisdom, and light, even on the darkest days. Wishing you strength, health, and the courage to move forward no matter what.